Thank you so much, Vishal sir, for joining us on a podcast at Doddle. Extremely grateful that you took out time on this Saturday evening to share your insights with our global audience. Doddle community now consists of 125,000 plus CXOs, and extremely happy to be hosting you. Extremely grateful. We have quite a few interesting topics for you. And I know that you don't need any introduction, but still, if you could take us to your journey so far to give a context to our audience.
Thanks for having me, Rishikesh. Good to be here. So, on my journey, maybe I'll start backwards. I think that's a bit easier nowadays. So, currently, I'm the executive director and CEO responsible for the chemicals business at the Godrej Industries group. Been doing this for about 2.5 years now, well, nearly 3 years. Prior to this, I worked with a firm called Ecolab for about 10 years with multiple different roles, horizontal roles, vertical roles across Asia Pacific, Middle East, Africa, including India, Turkey. Prior to that, spent about 12 years with a firm called Diversey. Again, in different roles. Part of that tenure was in India, worked in Europe for some time, based out of Amsterdam. Again, lived in Thailand, Singapore for some time, and Middle East as well. And spent about 4 years with GE before that. That's my essential background. I did my MBA marketing, did my mechanical engineering, married. We've got 2 kids. We've got 2 cats.
Related to this, there's a question that, a lot of this generation, if you talk about the Gen Zs and even to some extent the later millennials, pet, having a pet has become significantly, kind of critical for their life. Why do you see this transition happening?
It's an interesting question. I don't know if data validates that. We have pets because our son came up one day with a sick cat. This is, I'm talking of 2010. He rescued it, let's say, from below. Unfortunately, that cat, that little kitten, passed away in a week. We tried to save her, but we could not. That left a big imprint on his mind, particularly, and ours as well. And we decided the only way to get over this was to actually get a cat now. So in a few weeks, we picked up a stray and got the stray. And then we decided one is not enough. He needs company. So we got a second one. And hence we have two. And they've been with us for 15 years now. So that's our story. Like I said, I don't know if data validates whether the current generation has more pets than the past. I do believe that the awareness levels are much higher today. And the
Yeah.
acceptance of having pets and being more animal friendly is much higher with the younger generation. To that point, I had put up a post on Gen Z as well on LinkedIn some time back. I do believe the current generation is more aware, more empathetic. They are more holistic. Let's put it like that. They don't come with a lot of the baggage that probably our generations and definitely the ones before us used to carry. They're more secure. Their parents are generally doing better. Or they don't have the kind of, I would say, financial pressures, etc. So part of their mind works on the finer things in life, which probably our minds didn't work that much on, when we were at the age of the younger generation today. So I think that has something to do with it.
And while you were doing your MBA, say 1 or 2 years down the line after your MBA, did you have a dream in your mind that I have to become the MD and CEO of a vertical of Godrej? Did you did you think like this?
I mean, definitely not of Godrej, because at that point in time, you're just starting and you cannot plan that much enough, as much as one would like to. But yes, I think I was pretty clear that I want to rise up the corporate ladder. And a few years down the line, definitely the ambition was there that, if I get to that level where I actually head an organization and lead people there, that'll be an achievement. Let's put it like that. So that has kind of been, let's say, the long-term vision for me professionally, for a long, long time now. And I think it's good to have that kind of a vision. And I would encourage people to actually set a vision for themselves, because it helps you define the stepping stones. It helps you define your building blocks. Along the way, like I was very clear, I will have to become very good at working with people. I will have to become very good at developing people, analyzing people, helping people become successful, because end of the day, that's the secret sauce. Yep. You can build the best strategy, be the best executor, all whatever you want, understand technology and be very good at that. But end of the day, when you're leading a few thousand people, it's much less about what you do. It's much more about what you can get them to do and how you can enable them to do their best and how you can continuously build them to become better going forward. That's how you build sustainable organizations.
Sir, I will tell you a secret. So I was kind of talking to a few folks, who are kind of, mid-level management kind of people, like who are in their early 40s or late 30s.
Uh-huh.
And two of them, two of them knew you. So all of them knew you, but two of them knew you personally. And they
I
told
see.
that while we were kind of struggling, we were kind of, we're not sure what to do now. We went to Vishal sir. We had a session with him. We kind of had a coffee with him. And after meeting him, we had too much clarity in what to do next. So I have a question on this. Like a lot of people, who are at a mid management level, have come from a good pedigree, good experience, but they seem to be stuck. What is your, recipe for them? How should they see their career, especially in their early 40s?
Stuck has multiple definitions. Typically, in my observation, the stuck happens because people stop building their capability profile. They stop expanding their potential. One of my earlier CEOs, Doug Baker, he was also, I think the top 50 CEOs in HBR for a few years, the CEO of Ecolab many years back. In an interview with a press, with a reporter in Dubai, actually, we were sitting together and he was being interviewed. He was asked a question as to, what's your ambition? And he said, I don't have an ambition. My ambition is very clear. I just want to keep expanding my potential, the potential of my company and the potential of my people. If I can do that, I will keep growing forever. It's permanent and I'll be unstoppable. I would say that to people actually. So when we say someone gets stuck, nobody, nothing makes anybody stuck. People get stuck themselves. And if you get stuck yourself, you have to unstuck yourself as well. It's with you. We often tend to externalize what's happening to us. Over time, I'm a big believer in internalizing it. And I don't mean to use the word internalize negatively. I mean to use it positively because I can control my actions the best, right? I can't control what you do or what my manager does or what my colleagues do or what my customers or suppliers do or my owners do. My maximum control is over what I do. So it's good to go back and see, so this is not happening. Why is it not happening? And what can I do about it first? Let's answer that question. And then you can always, go ask people for help. So I think those are the two key ways to get to unstuck yourself or help get someone, unstuck. Make them think about themselves. Make them think about their own capabilities. Make them think about where they want to get to and do they have what it takes to get there? Or is it a ambition without actually putting the efforts behind reaching that ambition? Yeah, a lot of us do that. We have dreams. Your dreams will remain dreams unless you act to actually get there. So I think that execution part is very, very critical. And second, I'll use the word humility. Be humble enough to go to the right people and say, can you help me, please? I need help here. And when you ask for help, 99 out of 100 people will genuinely, honestly, and fully help you and support you.
And you being on the show is an example of that. Is that I genuinely approached you on LinkedIn and I got a yes from you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think, you know, for me, a few years back, it happened in a meeting actually, with my leadership team in Ecolab when I was in Dubai running Middle East Africa. I kind of defined my mission in life. And it was not about this position, this money, that money. It was about, I want to help people become happy and successful. So to that, I'm very happy to share. I'm very happy to teach. I'm very happy to meet people and help them with challenges that they have. So it's not just you. There are many people who reach out. I sometimes have conversations with people. There are people who reached out and said, can you spare 30 minutes of your time? I can. If it helps you in a way, I will. If it can make a difference to somebody, that's important. That matters. I think that's the best contribution we can make.
So there's one more thing. Like if you talk about your generation, people used to start as management trainees, used to remain in the organization for 5, 6, even 10 years. Even 6 years was considered to be a small time frame. But if you talk about the recent generation, like, people don't stick around for more than 2 years, 3 years at max. And what are your views on that, sir? The way organizations are functioning, especially in terms of hiring talent or grooming leadership. Because what I have seen in my experience is that leaders from bigger companies are groomed leaders, and they are far better when when you compare it with, say, a startup or something like this. So how can we kind of produce groomed leaders if a person doesn't stick in the company for a longer term?
So there are 2 points you're making. Yeah. Now, just for the sake of clarity of the audience who'll see this later, let me make those 2 points specifically separately as well. One is longevity of people. You're suggesting the longevity today is lesser than the longevity in the past. Second, you're suggesting that people working in large ecosystem, large organizations are groomed better, whereas people in smaller organizations may not. Let's take the first one, longevity. This is something to do with the people themselves. I think it's much more to do with the fact that the number of opportunities that talent has today is X of what talent had 20 years back, 25, 30 years back. Yeah. Go to my dad, joined one company, started from there, retired from there, did fairly well for himself. Okay, great. But when you sit back and ask him that, how come you stayed with one company? One of the answers he gives you, well, I didn't really know what else to do, you know, and there were not so many companies around. So today, a young talent that comes out who's 29 years old or 26 years old, opportunities are endless. And when we look for talent today, naturally we are looking for good talent. It's not easy. And so many times we find good people and then they say, well, if you're going to make me an offer, let me know fast because I'm working on something else as well. So let me know. I'll accept yours or I accept the other one. I think that is one primary factor. Second, I would also say that the expectations have changed. Go back to the first point we discussed where I said in our generation, we needed security, whereas today people feel fairly secure. And it's got a lot to do with the environment. When you're living in an environment, and let's talk of India right now. Yeah, I'm not going to talk outside India. Let's talk of India right now. When you're running a 6-7% GDP growth consistently, and you've got multiple sectors doing very well that started from zero and today are billions of dollars in revenues with tens of thousands of people in our lifetime. We've never seen this in the past, right? So the opportunities are multifold. It's not 2x, 3x, it's 20x or 25x. That's how I see it. So I think these factors contribute to the shorter tenures. Having said that, I do see people, and I've got people in my team as well, in my business, and I see other people as well, young people who spend time, who even spend a decade in organizations, but they have to grow. They have to see the future. I think the desire of young talent today is not security. That's gone. It's more about show me the future. Show me that I'm going to grow. Show me that I'm going to learn. Keep me excited in my job. And if you can achieve a value fit between what the talent values and what you as an organization value, that's a sweet spot, I would say. So we, for example, as an organization, focus on sustainability. So, we call ourselves as a green chemistry company. That's very important because the younger generation today values sustainability and is very focused on that. I have people coming in interviews who talk about this, and they say that as the reason why they want to join us. Now let's come to your second point. Okay, large organizations versus small organizations. I think the best way one can secure themselves today and for the future, as I said before as well, is to keep developing yourself, keep expanding your capability profile. I don't think talent today has a reason to complain about not growing and not developing, and definitely should not be pointing a finger at the organization. So whether you're working in a 10% company or a 10,000-person company, you have the internet available to you on your computer and your phone. You have access to every single subject that you want to learn about. You have information flowing, gigabytes of information flowing into your phone every day. What lack of resource do you have? Now the question becomes, do you have the interest? So are you waiting for your organization and your manager to, open your mind and pour something in? If you have the interest yourself, you'll do it. So please do it. But I would say learning agility is one of the competencies that is the rarest among people. And I'm not only talking of today's generation, I'm talking of all generations. There are very few people who are learners. And the people who get ahead are actually the ones who are good learners. I was reading an article recently where it said it was about, the best 50 CEOs in the last decade. It actually said they are the best at getting better. That's the quality they have. Now think about this. It's a very powerful statement. They are the best at getting better. So I advise people, not just, advise everybody, try to see every year how you are better than last year. And if you can't answer that question from your heart, you've lost a year. You may have performed well. You may have got a promotion. You may have got a raise. All that is great. Well done. But if you've not developed yourself and expanded your capability profile, you've just lost 1 year of potential development.
It's well explained, sir. And you're absolutely right, actually. It's like learning agility is the competitive advantage.
The pace of change today is so fast. If you're not going to be learning agile, and if others are, you're going to fall behind a little bit. I'm not suggesting, rat race and all that stuff. We all should do what we want to do. But if you want to get ahead, let's face it, there are 20 people in a team, there's one leader. You want to become the next leader, you have 19 people to compete with. And some among them will be as desperate as you.
As killer as you. Sir, you have led very large, industrial businesses across India, Middle East, Africa, Asia, Pacific. So how did each region challenge your leadership philosophy differently?
See, there are two parts when you say leadership philosophy. One part is about your value systems as a leader, which remain consistent, and you don't change them, you don't compromise on them. Yeah. In the ideal world, there are some who do. I don't. Those stay consistent. Those don't change. So you value ethics, you value mutual respect, you value transparency, you value development, as I said, learning agility. So these things, they remain consistent wherever you're operating and whatever you're doing. Yeah. Different organizations, different geographies, different cultures, whatever it may be. Then there's a second part, which is context driven. So what's the culture of the place I'm in? What is the state of the industry that I'm operating in? What is the state of the immediate business that I'm leading? If you're in a business that's losing money and you need to fix it, you're going to operate in a slightly different way. You're in a business where there's massive opportunity and it's all about scaling it, growing it. You're going to
Mm.
operate in a slightly different way. You're in a business where it's a mature industry, you're stuck, not growing, struggling to make profits, and your owners want you to harvest. Uh,
Yes.
then you need to be thinking of doing something transformational. That's going to be a different approach. So I think the
Yes.
context will then decide that part of your leadership style. Yeah. So how much of a sense of urgency do you bring in?
Mm.
What kind of financial analysis do you do? And what kind of decisions do you make based on
Mm.
that? All this will depend on the context. Yeah. So to repeat, there are two paths. One is
Mm.
of leadership, one is value driven, and the second is
Yes.
context driven. Value driven, stay consistent, don't compromise. Context driven,
Yes.
please be very agile. Because if you're not, you're going to be trying to do something here that you did
Yeah.
before and that worked for you, whereas here it's not going to work. It's either a different industry, or it's a company's in a different state, or the geography is different. The dynamics are different, the competitors are different. You got to look at it very carefully.
There's one question that's coming to my mind is that, whenever you join a company as a CEO or as a, leader, the first thing that I think you'll be facing a challenge in making the people accept you as a leader. So how do those initial months, what is your approach to that? Like to make people accept you as a leader, to look upon you?
I'm not sure you can make people accept you, right?
Yes.
I think you have to position yourself in a way that acceptance happens, because acceptance or non acceptance is their choice, not your choice, correct? First of all, it's not that difficult. Sometimes we overestimate the difficulty of this. When you're brought in, you've gone through a series of interviews, people have looked at you, they've evaluated you, you're most likely the right person, yeah, guy or girl. So that's the first thing, and the organization understands that this person has not come on his own. Someone's made the choice, okay?
Yes.
And if the board or the leadership or the owners or the promoters have that credibility, that
Yes.
credibility will have some respect. So that's point number one. And you're coming in a position, so you come in now. The important thing is, I think you got to balance very clearly what's your brief, what is the mission out there. And then you got to be really careful that if you're going to change things, and normally change is required. Sometimes
Yes.
it can be a change in strategy, sometimes it can be a change in momentum, sometimes it can be a change in culture, sometimes it can be a change in the business itself. Yeah, you've come in, but your brief is you got to transform this business into something different. Then you got to figure out how you're going to balance the legacy with the future. So what you got, there are some watch outs out there, which, I've learned from experience as well. I've made my own share of mistakes and I won't hide that. Sometimes you get, especially when you're very passionate and driven, you get caught up with trying to move too fast. I think that's a mistake. People have to watch out for that. Yeah. Leaders have to watch out for that. Don't try to move too fast. First, make sure you're understanding everything really well. And that does not just mean the business, the customers, the ecosystem, the industry, the competition, the culture, the people. It means all of it put together. You got to understand this well. If you don't and you start making decisions early, you could make mistakes. And more often than not, you don't fail because you did the wrong thing. Oh, sorry, you don't fail because you didn't do the right thing. You fail because you did the wrong thing. Yeah. There's a difference in
Mm.
these two.
Mm.
I did do the
Yes.
right thing, but I didn't do anything and I did the wrong thing. Doing the wrong thing makes you fail much faster, actually. So you don't give yourself the time there. So I think first thing is don't move too fast. Second, if you want to make changes, make them in a very balanced way. Make them in a very respectful way. Don't shake the tree where everything, the branches start falling off. I've seen people coming in being rash, first month you start making moves, then you don't have the credibility. The first question people ask is, the guy or girl has just come. I mean, what do they know? They've hardly met anybody. They've hardly gone to customers. They've hardly spent time in the labs or in the factories. How are they making decisions? So you got to be careful. You got to be careful with this. Yeah. Spend time, understand, go slow, respect the legacy, because the organization is still there, right? And it's been here because people in the past have done some good stuff. Don't talk badly about that. I think these are all watch outs. And if you don't, make these mistakes, you're actually significantly increasing your chances of success. One very important point I'll add as well. Map your stakeholders. This is very important. I think this is something that most leaders miss. And stakeholders are not just above you, they are parallel to you and they are below you as well. Map your important stakeholders. Make sure you're spending the time to build those relationships and make sure you're building trustful relationships. If you have trust, things will work very well. And if you build doubt instead of that, it'll be much more difficult.
And that's so valid while you are leading digital transformation as well, because I observed this while I was working in my previous organizations. And yes, respectfully making sure that you understand them and not taking any drastic steps in the initial,
Yeah.
traction.
And if you don't mind, I'll just add one more point. It just struck me. I missed that. Involve people in decision making. Anything you do, it can't be your decision. It's got to be a decision we made together. This is extremely important. I think this is another place a lot of people go wrong. See, the fallacy of the corporate world and power is the higher you go, the smarter you think you've become. Actually, you don't become smarter, but you think you've become smarter because now you have a title and everyone laughs at your jokes even if they are not good. You got to watch out for this. You got to make sure you're maintaining that humility and staying humble. So if there's something important to do, there's no need to do it in one day. Take 3 weeks or take 2 months to do it, but involve the key people. Make sure everyone's heard. Make sure everyone feels involved. If it's our decision, the execution will be flawless and it'll be really great and you'll succeed. And if it's my decision, which I'm asking you to do, that's a very different picture and a more challenging picture.
Absolutely, sir. Sir, if you talk about chemicals and industry manufacturing sectors in India and APAC, what are the biggest transformation priorities that you see today?
I think we are in a very good place in India, first of all. And I keep saying this in every forum I get an opportunity to speak in. We have good talent. We've got enough access to technology as such. We've got a low cost of labor. We've got a decent cost of capital. And we've got a decent cost of energy and utilities and, I would say even land. Where we will fall way behind the rest of the world and particularly the most successful economies is innovation. Simple data point. Our spend on R&D as a percentage of GDP as a country is 0.6, 0.7%. Compare that with China at 3.5, the US at even more than that, South Korea and Israel at 6, 7%. Uh, Thailand as a country is 2.5%. We are way behind. This, to me, is the single most concerning aspect of our industrial sector. And it's not chemicals or heavy industry. It's across the board. I won't go to FMCG. I think we are fairly innovative there. And, that's anyway more basic. You're talking of needs of people out there. And it's more driven than, emotionally driven purchases versus rational purchases. But in the B2B space, I think we lack innovation significantly. So think about which major product, technology, software, process, tool do we use which was developed in India? And you'll struggle to think of something. Where is our Apple? Where is our Ford Motors? I'm going back, 100 years when Ford invented the car. Where are these? We don't have them. And the challenge is, I think we are not spending enough time, money, and energy on this. This is something we have to change as industry in India. And I think we are gradually beginning to realize this. Go look at China. I think this is where China has made massive, massive investments and has gone leaps and bounds ahead of us. China's competing with the US today, on AI. That's not happened by coincidence. They've been working on this for 20 years or even longer. Whereas we are called as the back office of the world. That's not a great place to be in. I was on a seminar with Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, in Mumbai. And, he said very clearly, long term, India will have to become the front office of the world if it wants to remain sustainably successful. You can't remain the back office because the back office will change and part of it will vanish over time. It'll be replaced by technology and it'll be, they'll be looking for productivity there. Future of the world sits with innovators. You look at all the big economies today, you look at the biggest companies today, you look at the companies with multi-trillion dollar or, hundreds of billion dollars of value. They're all innovators. They're not me too's. They're not people who've copied stuff from others and made them. So I think that's a big one for us as a country. I can name a couple more, but this is the number one point and this is the most important one. If you fix this, it will take care of most other problems.
So I've got a question related to this as well, sir. So how do you balance long-term innovation investments with near-term profitability pressures?
So typically you need to do both. Yeah. So we are very clear about that as a business. I'm personally very clear about that as a leader. And I've always been clear about that for the last 10 years. Once I learned that you need both. Yeah. And I think it's our job at the leadership level to make sure we are balanced with this approach. So it starts right from the time you're making long range plans. It starts right from the time you're doing your annual planning and making financial commitments to your different stakeholders. You have to get their buy-in on this. Yeah. You can't do it alone. You have to make sure all stakeholders that matter around you are on board with this fact that there are things I need to do which are strategic. The payoff will not come this year or next year. It's going to come in 3, 4, 5 years. But if we don't make those investments, we may not achieve what we want to in 10 years. So we need to make them. And sometimes if you need to compromise the quarter or even the year, I would say, I think that's okay. Because every company, let's take my company for example. My company existed for 65 years. It is going to exist for the next 65 years. And the reason it's existed for 65 years is they've played the long game. They've played the long-term game. If you keep trying to do things to deliver the quarter or the year always, you will compromise on your strategic investments. And then in 5 years, you'll either be acquired by somebody or you're going to become the number 3, number 4, number 5 players, and eventually you'll fade into irrelevance. So there has to be a very clear balance between these two. And if you come to a choice, the choice, I
Yes.
think, in my personal view, should be stay with the strategic investments. You may miss something in the short term. It's fine. What will happen? My market cap will go down. Okay, it'll bounce back next year. Now, these are all cycles.
So it kind of reminds me of a story of my manager. He was the CEO of the company. He used to tell me that I get, these recent graduates into the company. The reason being is that they give me a different perspective of looking at the processes, because the people who are already in the processes, they have lost that capability of looking it from a 30,000 feet view. Do you also believe on this, sir? Like new people coming in different industries and giving you a new set of
Well, I would say, I would say you can bring in young people who don't know anything, but then the problem is if you're in a slightly complex industry, a lot of it may not make sense then, right? Because you need to know what's going on so that you can add the right value. I found consultants help sometimes. I found talking to others in the industry helps, but most often I found having an open mind yourself and going and talking to multiple different people in your own organization helps a lot. Again, it's a fallacy that it's only the top 10, 15 people who really know what to do. There are people 3 levels down who are paid 15 lakh rupees who may actually have a brilliant idea, but nobody has asked them. If you ask them, you may get a brilliant idea. So I think somewhere companies need to figure out how to harness the brain power of more people in their organization. It's very nice and fancy to say, yeah, I'll get 5 freshers and ask them, but if they don't understand my industry, my competitive dynamics, my technologies, what the global scenario is like, macroeconomics, I'm not sure I'm going to get too much value out of that. So some things sound very nice. It's a
Yeah.
nice ad or a
Yes.
poster, but I think business reality is a bit different. You're not going to make decisions worth hundreds of crores based on that advice.
So it's important to build an innovation pipeline running from the lowermost rung to the CEO.
So, I mean, you have to make choices, right? You have to see where value can come from. Where can there be people who can add value to this? You have to find that and then make logical choices. But yes, you have to build an innovation pipeline. You have to ideate. You have to give people the opportunity to be heard. Then we come from, so first there's a process that you need to have and there's a culture you need to have. You need to have both. So this is where the process is the hard side, the culture is the soft side. Because even if you build the right process, but if people are scared to talk, either because there's a
Yes.
fear of looking foolish
Yes.
or
Yes.
because the boss always wants to have the final word, you have a problem there. People will stop talking. If people feel I'm not heard and whatever I say, it doesn't matter, nobody listens to it anyway, then you're just going to have a meeting where only one person talks, and that's the worst place to be in.
Then what role do you think are the government policies and national industrialization agendas they play in shaping your growth strategy across developing markets? So what role do you think, sir, do government policies and national industrialization agendas they play in shaping your growth strategy, especially in developing markets?
See, they play a very important role. Industry by itself will not be able to achieve what it needs to achieve. It needs support of the entire ecosystem. And in a country, the ecosystem is managed by the government. Something as simple as what are the land laws like? How many approvals do I need before I can start production? What kind of capital support do I get? How does the taxation play out? All this makes a difference. There are companies which have got into trouble simply because import duty changed or a import duty came in, and it affects in different ways. So the government definitely has a role to play. Having said that, I'll say one thing very clearly. Industry should not look at government as being the driver. Industry will have to be the driver. The government will be an enabler, and that's the role of the government. The government's not going to run it. The government's not going to fund it. The government's not going to help it become successful. The government's going to provide an ecosystem to enable the success. But eventually, you'll need industry or the particular company will need to make the right product choices, portfolio choices, customer choices, manage it well, set up the plant at the right cost, finance it in the right way, hire the right people, run the business in the right way, and make it long-term successful. So I think that's the way to think about it. There are so many industrial sectors and segments today. The government will help in some that are very capital heavy. Look at the PLIs that exist today, the production linked incentives. There's a massive steel plant coming up now by ArcelorMittal, Nippon Steel. I think 80,000 crores being invested. These are places where, government involvement is important so that the whole ecosystem support is there because you need mining rights, etc. But for the general company out there, or in most industries, you got to drive the government, look at the government for support. And the government is generally supportive. I will tell you that. We meet a lot of government officials. They're well-meaning. They're supportive. You go ask for help in the right way, you typically get it.
And how open is the industries like chemicals? It like is to like. Do you see a lot of startups coming out with innovative ideas which can help such industries?
So I spoke about innovation earlier, right? We don't have enough of it. So no, we don't see that. We need to see much more. We need to see much, much, much more.
Yeah. So is it because there are less people in the ecosystem who know about the industry, who have got the depth of it? Because it's tough for build in such kind of an industries if you don't have the knowledge depth.
So, of course, if you want to be an entrepreneur or you want to innovate, you need to know the subject. That goes without saying. Yeah, if you don't know it, then don't try to get into it. Try to leverage your strengths. Unless you have a partner or co-founder or something with you who's deep on that technically. I don't think that is the main issue. I think there are enough ideas out there, and there are enough willing and smart people out there. I think the challenge is actually in India sitting with risk capital. Okay? So when we speak of capital, there are many kinds of capital. There's normal capital. So business like me, it's a successful business. It's growing, it's big, and it's backed by a big group. I want capital. It's fairly easy. It's not going to be very difficult, and I'll get it at a very good cost. Okay, of who we are. It's a standalone company with a 500 crores revenue. It's going to be a bit more difficult for them. But if they have a decent balance sheet and they are showing operational capability, they'll still get it. Now you talk of someone who's 32 years old, has an idea, and doesn't have much more beyond that right now. Who's going to give the first 10 crores? Because the chances of success are 50%. I think this is where we are having issues. I think risk capital is some place where we have a challenge in India. And today, 10 crores doesn't go a very long way. You want to really start something, you're talking of between 50 and 100 crores that you'll typically need, yeah, in the first couple of years. And people are not willing to take that risk. So that's point number one. Point number two, see, bankruptcy laws in India, now they are getting better. But even today, you're hearing of people going to jail because the company failed and they can't pay back their debts. In the US, which one is it? I think it's chapter 6 or chapter 7, chapter 11, yeah, which is the bankruptcy chapter. We need to have that in India so that if I want to be an entrepreneur and start something, I'm not, morbidly scared that if I fail, I'm going to go to jail and my whole career and life is destroyed. That's the second point. And I think here's where the government can actually help. You don't need to help everybody, but you can definitely say that if you're starting up stuff, you're protected. Which means if things go wrong and it fails and you couldn't succeed, you won't be held personally liable for this and definitely not criminally liable. I think the third part is, see, think of our whole education system. It's changing now gradually, step by step. But the fact that we have to pass multitudes of exams before we reach the 10th grade and then the 12th grade and then we do whatever programs we do, pass or fail. This is how our mind works. Successful or unsuccessful. And then kids who fail, I don't think their parents clap and welcome them home or their friends say, hey, you're great, you failed. And you failed in 5 subjects out of 10. Fantastic, well done. So that this whole environment actually makes us fear failure. And when you fear failure, you become less innovative as a culture. So personally, I believe we are risk averse as a culture. And we need to change this, which is where I like the current generation much more in terms of, their ability to take risks. They are more secure. They're willing to try new things. I think in our generations, we didn't have that risk appetite. So that's the third challenge actually that we have. It's a cultural challenge. And we need to very consciously overcome it and change it.
But there were some good things in your generation as well, like perseverance, patience, human relationships.
That exists today as well.
Yes.
I don't think it's missing today. It's just the timelines have changed a bit. Yeah, there was a time when you were willing to wait 10 years for something to happen. That has reduced to 3 years today. And I think that's okay because the environment also has become such and the pace of change has become such. You can't wait 10 years. In 10 years, the world will change. You won't even know what it's like. I don't think you and me can sit here and predict what
Yes.
the world's going to be in 10 years. We don't know. It's moving too fast.
So do you think companies like Godrej should also get into co-creation, like with startups? You told there's a lack of, risk capital. Can the bigger companies or the conglomerates encourage more co-creation with innovative founders?
We can and we should. Again, I don't want to say anything on behalf of the promoter family, but I'll just mention. I mean, it's in the public domain, so I'm not mentioning anything confidential. We have the group has a family office. The promoters have a family office, and there's a lot of funding they do from there for innovative ideas. There are a lot of entrepreneurs and innovators who actually get funded from the family office. So that happens. We don't do co-creation directly from the company. It's listed. You have to pass through a lot of procedures and protocols. It's much easier doing it through the family office route. So that makes sense. And I'm personally aware of so many ventures that we have supported. Some have succeeded and some have not. But the support still goes because the family believes in that. Yeah. The family believes in India. The family believes in innovation and creativity, and a lot of support is provided.
Sir, can you share one leadership principle that has helped you sustain performance during times of disruption or regional volatility? Like you had.
Stay focused on the long term.
Mhm.
I think that is what I would say. Again, a CEO of mine said very clearly, used to say very often, don't run the business like the waves in the sea. Follow the currents, not the waves. The waves come and the waves go. The currents are what stays. So if you want to write something, write the currents. Look for them, find them, and write them. So if you believe you're running the current, 1, 2 bad years is not going to change the world for you. Yes, you'll have to ride it through. You'll have to ride it through. And you'll have to make sure your stakeholders understand your approach and what you're doing here. You can't just make the decision in yourself in your office and then miss every quarter and, start, let's say, degrowing for some time and dropping profitability without pre-warning, pre-explaining and aligning your stakeholders. So do that well and manage the short term, navigate it because you're riding the right current and eventually you're going to bounce back and do very well. I think that's very companies that become very reactive. There's volatility. Volatility is always going to happen. Uh, but you become very reactive. You make short-term decisions. You suddenly decide to lay off 20% of your workforce and then you're going back to hire them after 12 months. I'm not sure how smart or sensible that is. So, I'm a believer and the group is also a believer in the social responsibility of business. I think this is very real. And businesses need to feel some social responsibility. You can't just be a cold cash machine because when you lay off 10,000 people or whatever it is, 500 people, you're effectively impacting 500 families. It's not simple. We need to think about this before we make short-term decisions.
And Godrej is known for its, caring culture, sir. Like I still remember while I was in FMS, when Godrej came for, an induction, the emphasis was very much on sustainability and even hiring across diversity, like, from different kinds of people
Yeah.
and all. And I would say, sir, I stay in a Godrej society and I've seen
Oh,
very
fantastic.
diverse people occupying various positions. Sir,
That's nice.
last few questions, what is that advice that you would like to offer to young leaders who aspire to take on a CEO level roles, especially in a complex industry like chemicals, manufacturing, and related sectors?
So let's talk of any leadership roles. There are a few basic things, and I think actually we covered all of them in the discussion. The first thing I'll say is be humble. Yeah. Don't be arrogant. However successful you are, however well you do in the initial stages of a career, or in the mid stages of your career, stay humble. Have no shame in saying, I don't know. I'm sorry. Please help me. These are all very powerful words. They are valued a lot. People will trust you much more when you are authentic, and you show humility. The second is, if you're humble, you're going to have high learning agility because you will be able to say, sorry, tell me more about that. I don't understand what that is. And when you do that, you'll learn. You'll learn much faster. So be curious, have humility, be curious, have high learning agility, keep expanding your capability profile, build your potential. That is when someone is going to look at you and say, well, actually, I think she can do a bigger job. She can do a more complex job than she's doing today because you're spending time deliberately, intentionally expanding your capability profile. So that's point number two. Point number three, and I'll stop there, be good with people. That doesn't mean you're always a nice person, okay? Because sometimes you have to do tough things. We call it tough love. I love you, I care about you, and right now I need to tell you what you're not doing well. And I've spoken to you twice, but you're not making the change. So now we need to have a real discussion. So I'll tell you the right way. It's negative feedback, but given constructively. And I'm telling you how you can improve and do better. So I'm giving you feedback, I'm giving you feed forward in a constructive manner, negative feedback, but given positively. This is very important. Getting along with stakeholders, getting along with your peers, getting along with people in general, extremely important. If you can pick up the phone and call somebody in government, if you can pick up the phone and call somebody in your industry, if you can pick up the phone and call a banker or call a private equity partner, that's very different from just being in your sandbox and just knowing people around you and not really having that network outside. There's a big difference in the effectiveness of these two leaders. So be that leader who's people oriented, people driven, be positive. When someone comes and meets you, make sure they leave feeling good, not feeling bad. So all this starts becoming very, very important. So just to recap, I said learning agility, I spoke about having the people skills, and right in the beginning, I said be humble,
That.
have that humility.
And why do most of the people, talk only about three things, sir? Just out of the box.
Very good question. Because when you keep things simple and when you say three things, people can remember three things. Instead of three, if I said seven, nobody will remember those. So if I want to make a difference, let's keep it at.
Yes. Then, then people will need a shortcut of this, like 5, 7.
And people can do that by themselves. Everyone is smart.
Now, last question is that, sir, what is your plan for the coming years? Like, what do you want to do? Like, so you have been in a company. What are your goals like? Especially when we talk about the professional goals.
See, at this stage, there's no specific professional goal as such. Yeah, we've set an ambition for ourselves to become $1 billion company by 2030. We are currently about $400 million. That's not an easy ask. More than doubling in 2 years. Sorry, in 5 years. Obviously, there's other profitability metrics around it and all that. And it's not just that. We want to make sure we become more global. So we want to have a higher share of our business outside India. We want to make sure we are seen as much more innovative by the marketplace, and we want to change the structure of our business a little bit. If we can do this, I think it'll be a massive, massive achievement. Personally, I'm not setting any personal ambitions for myself. I think it's more an ambition for the whole team that we need to have. If we get there, I think I'll be extremely happy and satisfied because it's not about me. I think it's more about what we deliver to our stakeholders. We'll have hundreds of more people. We'll have people in bigger roles. We'll have people being more well paid. We can develop people more and make them better and more capable, so that they have better lives. That's the bottom line, if you ask me. If we can help people have better lives as we go forward, that's the bottom line. That's what matters eventually.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Extremely grateful that you joined us and shared your insights.